Welcome back to the first episode of Wrestling Wednesdays in 2025. Really excited to be joined by a special guest this week, who is part of the team that run the UK's biggest wrestling convention. It's becoming an annual stomp ground for wrestling fans from throughout the UK, and I'm sure probably further aside, which I'll look forward to finding out. It's James from For the Love of Wrestling. James, Happy New Year to you. I know it's probably borderline too late to say that now, but welcome to Wrestling Wednesdays.
No. Happy New Year to you, Martin, and to anybody else watching as well. I hope you had a good Christmas and a New Year.
Yeah, it's obviously with being a wrestling fan, it's quite a nice time at the moment, isn't it? It seems to be growing bigger and bigger with the audiences. So I think it's the gift that keeps on giving right now.
Definitely. I love this part of the year. I love it as soon as we get into the new year. Obviously, what we call sort of like the Royal Rumble. I think that the Royal Rumble is my favourite pay-per-view of the year anyway. So I love this time of the year, and obviously, especially with everything's been happening this last week. I've literally just watched the end of this week's Raw on Netflix as well. I've been watching it sort of bite-sized chunks. So yeah, I mean, it's excellent, a really exciting time to be a wrestling fan. Excited to see what happens in the Netflix generation. You can already see them taking the shackles off a little bit on some of the content we saw this week. But no, Royal Rumble to WrestleMania, I think it's peak. It's the perfect time to be a wrestling fan.
Yeah, it certainly is. I think that's where most people that watch this, and obviously for myself as well, it's the holy grail time. It's the bit that got us hooked into the industry, I think, and the first and foremost. And anyone attending, obviously, for the love of wrestling, there's plenty of stories that they can hear about with the guests that you've got. But it'll be great to delve into your love of wrestling as well. But just before we get going, we're weeks away from the event taking place on Saturday the 15th and Sunday the 16th of February at the BEC Arena in Manchester. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. It's the BEC Arena in Manchester, 15th and 16th of February. Well, actually, this year we kick off a day earlier. For anybody who's not familiar with the BEC, you may hear it referred to as bowlers. Basically, it's 2 minutes from the Trafford Centre, for anybody who knows that area, and just a very short Metrolink ride away from the centre of Manchester. It's in that sort of media city around where Old Trafford is, sort of that type of area. But yeah, I mean, it is the convention itself is the 15th and 16th of February this year. But as last year, we launched the event on the Friday night last year to give everybody an extra day. What we're trying to do with this is almost create that full weekend festival experience. With For Love of Wrestling, we did it last year and we're doing it again this year. So on the Friday night this year, we're kicking off with the small matter of an evening with Ric Flair. God only knows what that will entail. I can see you've got the big gold behind you, so I'm sure that something you'll be interested in. And then after that, we've got Progress Wrestling doing For the Love of Progress once again, and they'll be showcasing the very, very best British talent out there right now. If you've never been to a Progress show, please get yourself down there. It'll follow succinctly on from the evening with Ric Flair event. So yeah, kicking things off in style with some brilliant independent British wrestling and an evening with arguably the greatest person to ever step into a wrestling ring. So not a bad way to spend a Friday night.
No, that sounds amazing. What a brilliant way of bringing the community together and making it even more of a weekend.
Yeah, definitely.
Ric Flair on a Friday night. That's going to be very exciting. So yeah, not one to be missed. Definitely one to get along to. In terms of obviously the guests this year, obviously Ric Flair being sort of the headline, I would say, but you've got some amazing names. You can see the pictures behind you. We've got the likes of Sting. You've got Deborah coming along, Mark Henry, Jake the Snake Roberts, Mike Chioda even as well, which is fantastic for those that listen to his podcast and
my big Lego head out of the way so you can sort of see that.
Well, obviously we'll share the links underneath for the website and where people can buy tickets and see the list of the guests. But if people are looking to attend, whether that's the Friday night, the Saturday, and the Sunday, or just come for a day, or whatever they want to do, what are the options available? I know meet and greets and panel talks. What else is on that weekend?
Yeah, so the beauty of For Love of Wrestling is you can do it as cheaply or as expensively as you would like to do it. I mean, for people who, I mean, it is, 6 or 7 weeks after Christmas, we are aware of that. But sometimes you have to work around what the best time is for sort of the bigger guests. And this weekend worked out well. But I mean, you can come to For Love of Wrestling and you can have the most amazing time, and you can just buy yourself like a basic entry ticket. And for that, you know, apart from autographs and pictures, you will get everything else involved, all of the panels. So, you know, you can, we've got around 30 odd guests this year, and they will all do panels really over the course of the weekend, or the majority will do panels over the course of the weekend. Every single one of those panels is included within your entry ticket. So you can come in to the show itself, buy yourself an entry ticket, which maybe about 25 quid or something like that. Get yourself a cold beer, and then you can just sit there all day watching all of those panels and listening to some amazing road stories. You can then go around to the gaming area, which is also going to be completely free. You can have a wander around the traders market. You can go and see all of the great exhibitions that we've got there, some of the biggest and best wrestling collections in the world. We're going to have prop builds there as well. I know we've already gone out with a couple of prop builds. The Snake Pit, Jake's Snake Pit, obviously we wanted to do this year with him being a guest. Also the WCW Nitro, Monday Nitro stage we're rebuilding. Perhaps a little bit smaller than the fuller stage, but we're doing that. Again, all of the prop builds included within your entry ticket again. So you can do it as cheaply as that and still get sort of 80 to 90% of the content on show. If you then want to branch into that sort of autographs and pictures with the wrestlers, you can do that. And, you know, you can do it, you can choose them individually. So if you want a photograph with Deborah and you want an autograph with Jake the Snake, you can go and buy those tickets on top. If you want to go massive with a big shebang and want to buy yourself a platinum ticket where you get an autograph and a picture with every guest, you get private panels, you get, you know, a few different things involved. That's almost like your VIP ticket. You can do that as well. It's entirely up to the person on what income they've got disposable at that time, how they would like to do it. We do concession tickets as well, so it's very important for us to bring in the next generation of wrestling fans through. We do that in a couple of ways. First of all, if you've got a 5 to 9 year old, their tickets are much cheaper. They're the concession tickets, and if you've got even younger than that, so ages 1 to 4, they can come in completely free. So again, we are trying to make it, you know, good value for families as well. But no, if you want to come in with just your basic entry ticket, the value is phenomenal. Completely up to the person. But yeah, everything that you need to know is on the website, which is www.fortheloveofwrestling.co.uk. And if there's anything that you're unsure of that isn't answered on there, please also always just feel free to drop myself a message on the Facebook page, or you can always email us in. All the details again are on the main Facebook page. You'll find it very quickly. There's over 100,000 followers, so it pops up very quickly when you put in For the Love of Wrestling.
It really does. Yeah, it's right there. And we'll put the links underneath. But yeah, it's very easy to find if you can Google it or go on any social media. It's definitely there. I'm really excited about the fact all those other elements that you mentioned. Obviously, the panel talks, they're very valuable as themselves anyway, because to hear questions being answered and listening to wrestlers talk about their career, it's what I build this around. But the other areas are growing bigger and bigger, the collectibles. So I'm a big fan, obviously, with merchandise, as you can see behind me, and cards and figures and everything else. So to walk around and see all that and see some of the traders, that's a great opportunity for people that want to attend as well. So that sounds really exciting. And the props, they're brilliant. What a great photo opportunity.
Yeah, lots and lots of fun. The prop builds are lots of fun. As I say, we've gone out with the Nitro stage. We're also doing Jake the Snake Roberts. We've also got a couple of other prop builds that we're going to be doing around the guests themselves. You know, we've got people like the APA there and stuff like that. I'm sure you don't need to imagine if what we've sort of planned for those guys. So
just knock on the door before you go in.
Yeah, so we want to do. We love doing fun stuff like that. You know, and I say this whenever I do these type of interviews. The great thing about this show is, you know, I'm just a small cog in the bigger wheel for Love of Wrestling. The great thing about For Love of Wrestling is this isn't convention people putting on a wrestling convention. This is wrestling fans putting on a wrestling convention. So, you know, everything that you see For Love of Wrestling, it's been thought of by wrestling fans, and it's, you know, in a selfish way, it's almost like, well, what convention would I want to go to? And that's the lens that we always put everything through. And if we as wrestling fans wouldn't want to see it at a convention, you know, nine times out of 10 we think, well, actually most wrestling fans wouldn't. But we also get loads of feedback as well from via our pages, via our social media channels. We've got a really strong WhatsApp group as well, and there, all, you know, we always make sure we secure feedback from them. I know whether that be, we sort of think of, you know, what guests to attend, what pictures to do. I know we've been having it, somebody's mentioned on there today, you know, we've got Lex Luger and we've got Buff Bagwell. So, you know, do we want to do a totally buff? And, you know, for me, totally buff was, I mean, it was sort of a bit of a, you know, flash in the pan sort of moment for me. But, you know, we'll reach out to fans and say, actually, is this something you want? And if it is something enough people want, maybe we'll think about doing it. So fan feedback is very important. But no, you know, there is so much to do for Love of Wrestling, and that's why I would always say, If you can make it for all 3 days, please come. And again, this year, what we're doing bigger and better than ever before this year is we are doing the after party. So the after party in the first couple of years had some live wrestling, but wasn't quite where we've got it to. Over the last 2 years, we've started to say, well, actually, what do we really want this after party to look like? This year, it's bigger and better than it's ever been before. I mean, it's already sold out. The first two tranches of tickets have already sold out, and we've got our final tranche out there now. So if people do want to attend the after party, please, please, please grab your after party tickets, because once they're gone, they are gone. And this year, we've got, once again, the amazing people from Future Shock putting on a live wrestling show. And over the course of the last couple of years, we've sort of dripped in here and there, sort of some of our guests taking part. This year, we're going big bang, no messing about at all. So we've got Jinder Mahal, who's going to be part of the live wrestling show, D'Lo Brown, Mike Yoda, Sonny, Tajiri, Breezango, and other people who are going to take part in the live wrestling show as well. You never know. One thing about our live wrestling shows is we never like to give it all away. There may even be 1 or 2 surprises in store for people who attend the live wrestling show. But live wrestling show, again, showcasing the very best of British talent. As well as that, we've got the cosplay competition, which we did for the first time last year. Huge response to that. People absolutely love it. We've also got Lana Oki. So anybody who follows his British wrestling knows of Lana Austin. She's a superstar in the world of British independent wrestling. She's coming to do an hour of Lana Oki with us as well. She's one of her generation's greatest music superstars, it's fair to say, or most unique superstars, it's fair to say. So she's coming to have fun with us as well. So it's just a great amount of fun, and it's the most perfect way for any wrestling fan to spend their weekend. We love doing it. The feedback we get is phenomenal. The guests love being part of it, but most importantly, the people who attend, they tell us again and again, this is, it feels like it's like Glastonbury for wrestling fans. That's the best way to put it.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. I think you hit the nail on the head a few minutes ago when you said about it being it's a wrestling fans and wrestling people putting the event on, rather than it being an event team putting a wrestling event on. And I think that's what comes across nicely when you're talking about the unique opportunities and the way that you're aligning it with live action, but also giving people the chance to, not just meet wrestlers and talent, but they're going to meet each other and meet wrestling fans and spend time with each other in the after parties, and share stories and share memories with each other, which I think is fantastic. And that's how you grow. And like the WhatsApp group idea, brilliant. And you're tapping into everything that we as wrestling fans like to hear. I was going to ask a bit about the background really to it, because I know, is this the 4th one? I think it is, and it started in 2019.
So this will be the 5th. This is
Right.
For Love of Wrestling 5. And it started back in 2019 in Liverpool. We did a couple of shows in Liverpool. We did one show in Liverpool, and then obviously COVID hit, so we lost 2 shows because of COVID. When obviously we just went through that horrendous period. Actually, For Love of Wrestling was probably the first big UK convention that got cancelled due to COVID. We had our wrestling event, our big flagship event in Liverpool, and then it was almost like 2 weeks after that, just the whole world seemed to shut down for good reason, obviously. But and then For Love of Wrestling was only meant to be a couple of weeks after that, so we cancelled, and then obviously we got cancelled the year after, and then we came back in 2021 with a bang, and this will be For Love of Wrestling 5. It was born out of an idea really of just my boss Andy, who's the owner of Monopoly Events. He had a couple of wrestling guests at one of his conventions, so he had Edge and Gail Kim. Edge, who we're calling Cope these days.
R-rated.
Yeah. So Cope and Gail Kim were at his Liverpool show, and Andy sort of looked around it and saw the queues for Edge and Gail Kim and other guests he had there. And already at that time, Andy already had a niche show. I say niche, but when I say niche, a more specified show. He had For Love of Horror, and he had For Love of Sci-Fi, For Love of the Force, and shows like that. And very quickly he said, well, actually, there may be enough here to give the wrestling fans their own show, and that's where it's grown from. And to see where it's grown from since 2019 to this year, it's just a credit to everybody who's involved. I mean, the guests that we've got attending this year, and I mean, back in 2019, it was difficult to get these guests over the line. More often than not now, you know, most of these guests want to do the show because of the incredible reputation that the show's got. And again, that's thanks to word of mouth. That's thanks to the amazing, you know, reputation we've got on social media. Previous guests, I can think of so many guests who've you know, proactively promoted us all around the globe. People like Eric Bischoff, who was at our first show and doesn't have any nice things to say about us. Rikishi, again, who does done a few shows for us over the last couple of years. Mick Foley, who's done some shows for us. Kevin Nash as well. You know, all these people, Barbarian and Warlord, for instance. You know, I've become sort of, you know, pretty good mates with the Barbarian, and those guys never have enough nice things to say, and they always want to. Hornswoggle messaged me the other day and said, you know, when can I come back? When can I come back to do another show with you guys? That's how much they doing shows with us. So yeah, it's this reputation it's got among the wrestling world is phenomenal, and I think that's down to the hard work of everybody involved, but also the guests who've attended and made it such an amazing time, and the fans that have attended as well. I mean, I'm not sure what the demographic was, but I'm sure if you go back to that first show in 2019, it was pretty much attended by a Northwest audience. I would suggest. You know, I'm looking at the last 2 years, and we have people now that come annually from Hong Kong, from Japan, from Canada, from all over North America. We have tons of people who come from Italy, Germany, Spain, France, Sweden, all of those types of places. We have literally boatloads of people who get the ferry over from Ireland for the weekend for it. I mean, it's become a global event, and it's getting bigger and bigger in the wrestling global calendar.
I think that's really exciting, because I think that was the hole that was there. Like you mentioned, that wrestlers were making appearances at different Comic-Con events or different events like your boss's event on a regular basis, and they were always really popular. But we never really had something that brought everyone together. And there was one event in London that ended up being a bit too hectic and never came back. And what you guys have done is build something organically, and it's grown and grown and grown. And you can't beat starting off in 2019 having The Undertaker, and then going on and having Bret Hart, Chris Jericho, and all the guys you just mentioned. I think that's phenomenal. I mean, to have The Undertaker come over and be the first one is pretty badass, isn't it, really? And then, you know, to keep growing every year, and the people, like you mentioned, that people are coming back because they're having a good time.
Yeah. And I mean, Taker's there's been quite a few firsts. I mean, Taker doing his first ever one was massive when he did it with us, and then not long after that, we actually took him to Dusseldorf to do a show over there, which was sort of a dead man show over in Germany, because Germany's got such a huge wrestling market. And what was really funny about that show is the Undertaker decided to do on the fly, really, on the morning of. He decided he was going to answer some questions from the audience, because he was so impressed that all of these people were flying all over from all over Europe to see him. And he wanted to do something special for him. And the Undertaker, that event that we put on in Dusseldorf, did his first ever Q&A.
Wow.
So, and that was crazy. That was just like, even as I've been a wrestling fan for sort of nearly 40 years now. I was sort of stood there aghast, going, "What am I actually witnessing at this point?" And it's moments like that sort of, I'm sure, keep us all going, and I think, you know what, it is worth it, because you get moments like that. But there will be moments like that this year, no doubt. I mean, just having we've got this amazing photo opportunity this year where, which is going to be sort of Ric Flair, Sting, Lex Luger, and Ron Simmons. I mean, for me personally, they're the four corners of WCW. That's the four people I would first think of when I think of WCW. I'm more a classic early 90s WCW fan, so that's where my head goes straight away. So to have those four people and a photo opportunity, and I when I'm sat awake late at night, I start researching these things, and I don't think that photo has ever been done. I mean, you've had Sting and Rick on certain shows, but I don't think those four people have ever been together for a picture at a convention. So we get to do world first like that, which is going to be a hell of a lot of fun. There's other guys coming over. We mentioned Mike Chioda before, and again, this is why it proves that this event is being put on by wrestling fans, because of the sort of guests that we get. And we think about it, people like Mike Chioda. We had Earl Hebner a few years ago, and again, we just said, do you know what would be fun? Imagine if you had like that picture of Earl Hebner in the middle of a ring, raising your arm, with the earl in one hand and then like the winged eagle in the other hand. Wouldn't that be a great picture? Oh my, the queues were out the door for it. We couldn't believe how well. And we're going to do something similar this year with Mike Chioda. Funnily enough, Mike, and apologies for keep dropping these names, Mike rang me earlier to talk to me about his hotel when he comes over. He's very, very excited. He can't wait to come over. He's going to be involved in the live wrestling show as well. We're going to be revealing on Sunday what that looks like. But yeah, I mean, so the wrestlers are really happy. You know, we've got to be careful sometimes. You know, we've got the Godfather. And we've got Papa Shango coming this year. Now, they really don't get on. They do not like each other, so they can't be in the same room. So there'll be no duo photo with them. So we've got to have Godfather on one day and Papa Shango on another day because it'll just kick off. As you'd
I think it's the same with Bradshaw and JBL, isn't it? They can't be in.
It is. It's very, very similar. Very, very similar. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's sad, but you know, you're doing the best you can.
It's politics. Politics at the end of the day. Totally out of our hands.
Part of their agreement. It's in their contract that they won't. You know,
It is.
Part of their job for the day. And you don't want to mess with the APA or Papa Shango.
No.
And
again, that in itself. I mean, you just getting the eight, because we had Bradshaw on our show a few years ago, and he's a funny guy. He's just such a funny guy. He's mellowed, I think, in recent years. And perhaps he had when he was in Wrestling Live, he had at times a bit of a negative reputation. He's definitely mellowed in the last few years, but he's not lost that sort of fire inside him. He's just a very, very, very funny guy. So to have him and Ron in the same room, I'm really looking forward to that. To bring when we started this event out, an APA reunion was one of those things that we really, really wanted to do. So 5 years in, getting to do that is a dream come true for us. It's going to be a lot of fun. We've had the Dudley Boys on previous shows, and we also had New Age Outlaws. And I mean, like the New Age Outlaws, when you just put those two together, they're just honestly just a pair of menaces. It's like they're on a stag do. They're having the most amazing time. But you know, you sort of got to like rein him in a little bit. I mean, just rein him in. If you've met Billy Gunn, he's about, you know, I'm 6 foot.
Big guy.
Up there on me. So I mean, it's quite hard to rein Billy Gunn in.
He doesn't age, does he? Either. Like, it's ridiculous.
He's an absolute mountain of a man. But they came over, and the thing I always say about this show is, and I work on about 18 conventions over the course of the year.
Wow.
For me, these more specific conventions are always the ones with the greatest atmosphere, whether it be sci-fi or horror or fantasy or indeed wrestling. And the reason is, for me, it's because when perhaps we've got 40 guests over at Comic-Con Liverpool, for instance, some of those guests know each other, a lot of them won't. When you get 40 wrestlers in a building together, they all know each other. So it's like they're having a boys and girls weekend away. And they have a hell of a lot of fun when they're here. And that comes across to the audience. A lot of them just spend all weekend messing around and having the time of their life. But that's what we want, because that's when they're in a great mood. That's when they're giving the best fan experience. That's when they let themselves go in panels. That's when they decide they want to come to the after party and have a beer. So for us, the better time the guests are having, the better fan experience they give. So we're all for that completely.
Yeah, sounds amazing. I mean, I think as well, obviously you touched at the start of the conversation about catching up on Raw on Netflix, which obviously is now massive, and WWE being on Netflix and the streaming service and the way they're promoting it like crazy. What that's done is probably brought a lot of lapsed wrestling fans who used to watch maybe in the Attitude Era or even the classic WCW era you mentioned. So for those fans, that they'll know who the APA are and they'll know who certain people are, and they'll be like, oh my God, I can come and see those guys. And they'll be reminded of that now because it's big. And then during the time when you had the lockdown, podcasts grew and grew and grew. So people that listen to Mike Chioda, Mailbag Mondays, and people who recently with JBL doing stepping in on a podcast for a few weeks with Conrad Thompson, people are getting to listen to his stories and they've got an excitement and they want to meet them. They've got the opportunity to. And I'm absolutely amazed you've got Deborah coming. Like, I think that's fantastic. What a great person you've got coming along with the memories of Stone Cold and all the rest of it. I mean, that's an incredible. I did not expect to see her come into a convention in the UK.
Do you know what? Deborah doesn't do a lot of them. I was surprised. Deborah's someone who we've been after for a number of years. I mean, obviously she was such an iconic part of that mega sort of attitude era. I mean, you know,
yeah. Jeff Jarrett, Owen Hart, Deborah, and
D'Lo Brown was at the time with him. She was phenomenal during that period. Deborah. She doesn't do a lot of these. I see she's a lawyer now. I know she works in the legal field. So yeah, I mean, she doesn't do them, but again, through through just hard work on everybody's part of the team to sort of, in the nicest possible way, chase her down and just try and prove to her that, you know, this is a great event. She'll come and meet all the UK fans. And she seems really on board with it now, which is great. I was talking to her manager last week, and Deborah's really looking forward to it. I think she said she's not been over here to a sort of convention or to meet fans in maybe 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's great. But no, I mean, there's something for there's something for everybody at this particular event. I mean, you're going right back to that golden era. You know, people like Sean Mooney, the Mountie, Jake the Snake.
Yeah.
You know, people, you know, Ric Flair, Sting, people like that, all the way up until, you know, the more modern guys as well. You know, we've got you know, Dana Brooke on the show. You know, we've got Jinder Mahal on the show. You know, we've got Breezango on the show as well. This year we've taken a shot in the dark. We've never really ventured into that sort of that Japanese territory, but you know, we've started working with a few people, and Tajiri was always somebody who we wanted, and so, you know, we got in touch with Sonny Ono. Sonny Ono started talking to us about Tajiri. Then the conversation of the Great Muta came up, and obviously Great Muta was one of literally the all-time greats. So, you know, it's just everywhere you walk, everywhere you look this year, it's wall-to-wall legends. You know, we could not be happier with the lineup this year. We've absolutely, you know, this is patting the booking team on the back, which I never like to do, but they've absolutely smashed this out of the park this year. And there's just so much. There's so many in gimmick photos as well. Like, you know, we've got the APA, we've got Bradshaw, we've got Papa Shango, we've got Godfather, we've got the Mountie, we've got the in-ring photo with Mike Yoda. Yeah, you know, so many really good fun in gimmick photos as well. Sting doing the white face paint, which is, you know, he's already said this is going to be one of the very last times he does it, if not the last time he does it,
Wow.
in Europe. So yeah, do not delay. And Sting's only with us on the Saturday. Sting will sell out. It wouldn't surprise me if Sting sold out within the next 10 days. So if you are listening to this or watching this and you're thinking of getting yourself a Sting autograph, pull that trigger now. There's nothing worse. There's nothing worse than when we have to sort of turn people away. And in hindsight, you know, I look now, we had, God rest his soul, you know, we had Bray Wyatt on our show a couple of years ago. He had him on two of our shows, once WWE Superstars, and then the last show we did in Liverpool, we were lucky enough to have Bray, and Bray was there on the Saturday with us, and we did just because of it completely sold out, and we tried to get as many people through as possible, but we couldn't get everybody through. We had to turn people away, but we'd been saying for weeks to people, look, Bray's going to sell out. Bray's going to sell well ahead of time, and everyone thinks, you know, we're just trying to be car salesmen and sell more and more tickets, and, you know, people left it to the last minute and they went away disappointed. So, you know, we just don't, and the same thing happened with Sting at that exact same show. He was only there with us for 1 day. So no, please do not sleep on, you know, Sting's only there for 1 day. He's flying. Ric Flair's flying. The Godfather, he's flying as well. Obviously, he's doing his two gimmicks on individual days. A lot of people are doubling up because they want the Papa Shango picture and they want the Godfather picture because it suits two such distinct gimmicks. So yeah, so don't delay. And, you know, it's yeah. So please make sure you secure all your orders and your pictures and all those great groups we've got as well. Like I say, like the APA reunion, like the Nation of Domination reunion, like that WCW Champions reunion, which I'm going to be completely honest, I'm 100% getting that picture myself.
Oh yeah, fantastic, amazing. And I think that's the beauty of how you've organised it, though, where some people are already there on the Saturday, and obviously we jokingly mentioned that certain characters are there on one day and the other day, but I think that's where, when you mention you've built a whole weekend around it, it gives people the chance to plan. So if they can, and like you mentioned, you know, you're very approachable, easy to get in contact with. If people want to find out and can keep an eye on your social media, they'll know which events are selling out, which meet and greets are selling out quicker than others. And it's just a case of, you know, looking at through the schedule, plan what you're going to do, and enjoy it and make the most of it. I think it's a fantastic creation, and it's great for, you know, I love this sort of stuff because I love meeting wrestlers and just sharing your favorite moment with them because they love hearing about it. And, you know, I know they hear it from every single person, but it's nothing better than someone telling you how great they were in this one moment and how much it mattered to them and how this was fun and having that interaction. I mean, Mick Foley's one of the best at having conversations with people. So, you know, you can't put a price on those sort of enjoyments.
Mick Foley again. Mick Foley will talk the hind legs off a donkey if you get him chatting about stuff. I mean, he loves talking about Christmas, as we all know. He loves, he loves talking about wrestling. He'll just get onto. He's a ridiculous music fan. He's got an encyclopedic knowledge of wrestling. I was fortunate enough. We had Mick at our Liverpool show in May last year, and I'm only 10 minutes away from Manchester Airport. So I said, "Oh, I'll go and pick up Mick and bring him over to Liverpool," which was great because I picked him up and then we were talking about music on the way over there. And I said, "Oh, actually, you probably don't know this." I said, the Bee Gees grew up round here." He said, "Oh, I thought they were American." I said, No, it's actually a place called Chorlton down there." I said, "There's a blue plaque outside the house." I said, it's where the Bee Gees grew up. And then we were talking about the Kinks. They led us on to talking about the Stone Roses, the Oasis, the Smiths, all of those type of things. And then we sort of got halfway to Liverpool. He was going, "Oh," and then we got into Liverpool bands. And then he made me take him to Anfield of all places, which was
no.
I know, right? I was way too early in the morning, and so it's very, very strange. And so he made me take him to Anfield at about 7:15 in the morning, and there's all this traffic driving past Anfield, and I'm stood outside. Mick Foley stood outside the gates of Anfield, and I'm sort of stood on the other side of the road just taking pictures. And the cars are whizzing by, and then somebody spots him, and the traffic just comes to a complete and utter stop. And it's almost like that car crash thing where people are just doing that, and I'm just like, you can see people are starting to get bumper to bumper because people are suddenly one guy just literally just pulls his car up on the side of the road and just jumps out. Says, it's Mick Foley, please can I have a selfie? But yeah, so you end up. That's the joy of these meetings, and that's the joy people like Mick Foley can bring to people.
Yeah.
But yeah, this year's lineup, I mean, for me, and I have been fortunate enough to meet him on a couple of occasions before, but Jake the Snake is one of the people obviously we're mega excited about bringing over. When we started this show, and we had that list of dream guests, Jake the Snake was very high on that list, as you can imagine. So to finally get Jake the Snake Roberts over, and Jake is everything you would hope Jake the Snake Roberts would be. He's got the aura about him. The Undertaker's. I've been around the Undertaker a fair bit, and he's got that aura. You sort of really know you're in the presence of someone. Jake the Snake's got that presence as well, and it is that very almost menacing, insidious, sinister nature. But he's also a really nice guy with that gravelly voice, but you're never quite sure whether you can trust him. And he is. He's Jake the Snake. He's Jake the Snake, and he's brilliant to be around. So yeah, please take the time to go and meet Jake the Snake, because for me he's one of the all-time greats.
Yeah, massively. I've got to ask the question then because it is Royal Rumble season, like you mentioned on the road to WrestleMania. It's a cheeky question, but I'm going to ask all your guests, men's battle Royal Rumble, who would come out on top of because we'll do a separate one for the women's. For the FTLOW Wrestling, if there was a 2025 Royal Rumble, who do you think out of all those guests, who would win it? Someone cheeky or someone aggressive? Who's gonna get their arm raised at the end by Kyoto?
I think all the guests that we've got on this year. Do you know what? I might swerve myself towards Mark Henry. I mean, it's going to take more than one man to get Mark Henry out the ring. But then again, you can never discount the dirtiest player in the game, Ric Flair. I mean, he always finds a way. He won arguably the best Royal Rumble ever. So I mean, even at his age now, Slick Rick will have some tricks up his sleeve. So yeah, I'd say Ric Flair or Mark Henry.
Amazing final two. And then on the women's side, we'll throw Lana Austin in there as well, because obviously you mentioned her earlier, but it's a big part of the weekend, even though no, not on the picture behind you. But Deborah, Jackie, Ash by Elegance, Lana Austin, who's gonna be your full of a wrestling champ out of those four?
I think Dana Brooke. I think
Yeah.
I think Ash by Elegance, formerly known as Dana Brooke. I think right now, I think she'd be I think she's been doing some great work at TNA and Impact in the last few years. She can really go. I think for me, she'd be the one to beat in that Rumble, definitely.
Yeah, I think that's the exciting about it is the fact the amount of people they might know him from WWE, but the amount of work all these guys and girls have done elsewhere, and like you mentioned, Dana's doing amazing stuff in TNA at the moment. I think that's where you're bringing all these different audiences together. People might know them from a particular company or watch them in their current product or watch them in WWE. They might know Jake as the menacing manager in AEW, for example. But I think it's really, really cool. What a great group of people you've got together, and it sounds like it's going to be an incredible weekend.
It is. We it's funny, yeah, you should say that because in the past, because we don't book, some people can get a little bit grumpy about, we don't book their favorite person at a particular time. But we try and get our booking spread across as many promotions as possible. You've seen that with us trying to bring the Japanese guys in. We've got, representation from all of the different promotions this year. Arguably, I'd say more WCW than any other show this year. But we do get, in the past people said, "Oh, you might as well call it for the love of WWE and stuff like that." I mean, it's just very hard for anybody to get to a certain notable, level in wrestling without touching WWE at some point. I mean, they are the Coca-Cola. They are the Nike. They are the Real Madrids. So if you are anybody really in wrestling, you will have probably been in WWE at some point, or WWE is your goal at some point. Even, somebody who arguably made a career out of not doing that in Sting. I mean, even Sting in the end went there, didn't he? And he did great things while he was in there with Triple H, and obviously the program he had with Seth Rollins and stuff like that. So yeah, anybody touches WWE at one point, and why shouldn't they? Because that's the end goal, I would imagine.
Yeah, and from everything I've learned from people I've interviewed over the years and the promotions I've worked with, the bigger that a more successful WWE are doing, the more that rubs on to others and gets the interest and elsewhere. And yeah, you want different companies and you want different portrayals of wrestling and you want different storytelling and you want different looks. But WWE, if they're doing well, everyone's kind of able to follow that down the line. And I think WWE on Netflix is so early days, but in a year's time, 2 years' time, the whole industry could be totally different because of that. We don't know which other companies might end up on streaming service and so on, and the back catalogue they've got. So yeah, I think that's a bit of a negative take if someone's complaining about that.
Definitely, and you're right. I mean, what have the people at Amazon Prime done? On Tuesday morning, and they've seen the viewing figures. Now, WWE Raw I was just looking before. WWE Raw was #1 on Netflix.
Yeah, above Squid Game and everything.
Yeah, above, Squid Game and all that. So you're definitely, they're looking now. You're going to have Amazon Prime, you're going to have Disney Plus, and going, hang on, we need a slice of this pie. So are they all now looking at TNA? Are they looking at AEW? And are they looking at some even smaller brands, creating their own promotion, which was happening in the past with like MTV when they had a crack at it and things like that. So yeah, you never know that. The way I look at this is this. Regardless of, and I'm not a big fan of all that tribal stuff. I like wrestling, and I think for me, in the wrestling world's big enough, and it always has been big enough for if you want if you want Rugged Ronnie Garvin against Greg the Hammer Valentine, in a 1 hour armbar stalemate, there's room for that. If you want midgets flipping all over the show and doing all that sort of stuff, there's room for that. There's room for everything in wrestling. So I never like to criticize any promotion, but WWE doing what they're doing right now with Netflix is great for everybody. Yeah. It means there's going to be more eyes on wrestling. It's going to mean there's more fans coming into wrestling. There's more money coming into wrestling, and it'll be just as good as it is for the WWE. People are going to watch Raw. Young kid's going to watch Raw on Netflix today and go, wow. And then he's going to pass his local leisure centre and see an American wrestling poster this weekend and go, Mum, let's go and watch them. So everybody wins. The better WWE does and the better AEW does, everybody wins.
Yeah, I think that's great what you're doing with the connections you've got with the British wrestling. Like you mentioned, Progress, and how you're doing that over the same weekend. So you're giving people a platform. People might be coming in and wanting to meet the WWE heroes, but they're going to have the opportunity to watch some British wrestling, and they might go and find out, oh, I want to go into that more often, and they're my new heroes. And especially, like you say, with the concessions for kids and bringing the family along, what a great opportunity for them to see wrestling up close, and then realise that it's a bit like lower league football and Premier League football. Go to lower league football, you can meet the footballers. And so if they go to lower league wrestling and professional wrestling, it's amazing and incredible, but doesn't get the same attention that WWE does. It's amazing. So I think that's a fantastic opportunity they've got there.
And that's right.
Just one thing I want to ask before you go, if that's all right.
One of the things, sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, go for it. Yeah.
So I was just saying that's one of the things we've also tried to do this year. So people may have noticed who follow our page on a daily basis. You may have started to notice that there's the few posters started popping up. We've always tried to promote the guys we work with, like your Progress, like your Future Shot, like your TNT and things like that. But we over the course of the last 2 or 3 months, we've been reaching out to all of the independent promoters all over the UK, and that's why now perhaps once maybe a bit more regularly as we head towards the show, but you'll start to see a lot of independent posters posters propping up on our page, and that's just us saying, you know, we want to start working with these guys now. We want to start reaching out. Some of these guys may have 500 people on their Facebook page. Great, give us your poster for your next pay-per-view. We've got over 100,000 people on our Facebook alone. Let's get it in front of those 100,000 people and hopefully sell you some tickets. So yeah, and that's all going on behind the scenes at the moment. So yeah, it is very much about, you know, For Love of Wrestling's reached a certain point now. How do we now start feeding that back out and working with so many other people in the British wrestling industry?
Yeah, and just to add on to that, it's even taking the point where I think it's Pro Wrestling Noah on the Friday are doing sort of tryouts, which shows that the industry itself is taking advantage of the fact that this talent's going to be there. From, you know, it's an opportunity for UK talent or anyone to come in, take part in a tryout for Noah, and they might end up being on a huge platform because they've come along for the day on a Friday. So you don't know as a fan attending who you're going to see that's the next big star, and that's exciting as well. So it's worth taking advantage of everything that you go. The one thing I've got to ask before you go though is about, I think you've catered really well with ECW this year as well. You've got Sabu and Shane Douglas, and you know, I think for me they're two of my favourites of all time, and it's amazing that you've got them coming along. How excited are you to have that side of the industry?
Yeah, completely. I mean, you know, we've wanted to do a big ECW reunion for a number of years. We'd like to bring more and more people in, and you know, in future years we'll try and bring more people in. It's you know, Shane Douglas is someone we've been speaking to a while. We're glad we got him over the line. Mick Foley's an ECW original, so that's huge. Tajiri as well. You know, there's a couple of people who, I'll be honest with you, we got Sabu on. So I was in Philadelphia earlier last year for WrestleMania, and I was running around the building just trying to get contacts with some of these guys. Some of them went so well, so I happened to catch Sabu as he was leaving on the Friday afternoon. Just said, Sabu, can I just have a couple of minutes with you? And I think he just thought I was trying to hassle him for something. Explained to him who it was, where we're coming from, and great, yeah, just really nice guy, down to earth. He said he'd heard of us, said he was interested in doing our show. So that conversation went well. I had a similar conversation with Sandman, and Sandman was just like, I'm not getting on a plane, man. I'm not getting on a plane. He's just like, he just can't be bothered getting on a plane, basically. You know, he has turned into Mr. T in his later life for some reason. But so, yes, I mean, we will continue to endeavour to make sure we have more and more ECW people, because we know how big ECW was over here. Jason, who's one of our bookers, you know, arguably in his earlier years, he was a bigger ECW fan than he was, you know, sort of WCW. So yeah, he's always got one eye on ECW, and we'll continue reaching out to people, everybody and anybody who you could think of. You know, we want to get even just people like, you know, someone like Joey Styles. We want Joey Styles on a future show. We've spoken to people about Joey before, but yeah, Francine, you know, those sorts of people, Balula and Tommy. We've had a conversation with those guys before. It's you know, it's all about dates working as well. I mean, it's a little bit like the WWE Hall of Fame for Love of Wrestling. You know what I mean? If we just got everybody onto the one show, it's very hard to then make that second show any good. So, you know, we gradually do these things and bring them together. But no, we're in a great position now, and this year is going to be phenomenal. And we're already planning for 2026 as well. But these next few weeks are going to be absolutely insane. And then for any of your guys who don't know, about 4 or 5 weeks after For Love of Wrestling, we've got our first ever horror, rock and wrestling show. Yeah. We've already got some great guests announced for that. Huge names from the wrestling world. Chris Jericho, who's going to be appearing at that show on the Saturday. And then we've got the greatest WCW champion of all time, Mr. David Arquette, coming to that show as well. So both of those guys tick that horror, rock and wrestling, all 3 boxes. So yeah, I mean, so that's going to be great. So whether you know David from his Scream films, his amazing film. I mean, I still think Ready to Rumble's just Ready to Rumble is just so bad it's good. I love that film.
Unbelievable film, such a good film.
From a wrestling fan, it's brilliant. Yeah. And obviously his time in WCW as well. And we had David a few years ago on our horror show. He's such a nice, warm guy. You'll struggle to meet a nicer, friendlier guy than David Arquette. So again, if you can't come to For Love of Wrestling, please come to Horror, Rock and Wrestling. If you can come to both, all the better.
Yeah, and if you are going to the Horror, Rock and Wrestling, make sure you check out the David Arquette documentary first, and you talk to him about that. But honestly, that is what a great signing. And I think Jericho has currently got a new film coming out as well called Shutter or something like that, about wrestlers and going into it's coming from Shutter Films. I think it's to do with a dark match or something like that it's called, but it's to do with wrestlers having to put on an event and it turns into a horror film. So that would be quite cool to see before.
No, it's in the
Before the
vein of
meeting.
that.
But no, it's really cool. I appreciate your time. It sounds like it's going to be an incredible few days. How on earth you've managed to get Ric Flair to do something on Valentine's Day, I don't know. You know, the Friday night, Valentine's night with Ric
Space
Flair.
Mountain is closed. Space Mountain is closed that night. It's all about an evening with Ric Flair.
Yeah, yeah, that's going to be a very, very interesting evening. I think that's well worth attending just on its own, just to hear him talk about his career. And I think that'll be insane. But yeah, I really appreciate your time. Is there anything in particular you wanted to sort of leave as a last message to share to fans that are going to get the opportunity to come along?
As you sort of said, yeah, that show with Ric Flair on the Friday night. Ric Flair is that point in his career where Ric Flair Ric Flair's always been Ric Flair, but he's probably peak Ric Flair at this point. Come down to that show on the Friday night, ask Ric Flair a question. He doesn't ever pull any punches, and he will have a lot of fun with the crowd. But no, as I say. Don't ever get it in your mind that you've got to come down to Full of Wrestling and spend hundreds of thousands of pounds. You don't. You can just come down, as I say, kids under five come free. There's concession tickets for your kids. Bring the whole family. Come down, watch some great live wrestling, listen to some of the panels, play some computer games, go through the prop builds, look at some amazing collections and do all that. And then if you've got, if you want to get some autographs and pictures, do that too. But come down and have some great fun. And as I say, it's the best weekend of the year for a wrestling fan in this part of the world.
Yeah, it looks fantastic. I'm really excited by it again, and I'm very excited to see what happens with the cosplay characters this year. I think that's what a great addition you've added to that, and it's something that gives everyone a bit more fun to enjoy and get involved with. But hopefully, no more trips to Anfield for you anytime soon.
No,
not to be biased.
Well, if it's someone like Mick Foley who wants me to go, we'll go. But yeah, you mentioned the cosplay then. For anybody who's attended our shows before, we've got the incredible Taker UK, who's coming back to our show for the first time since 2019. He's amazing. He's when Undertaker himself gives someone the seal of approval, they're good. And he absolutely loved meeting Taker UK back in 2019. And for anybody who was at our show last year, or wasn't, or just who follows social media, you may have remembered the young lady Sarah Page, who ended up going globally viral for her cosplay of China. And she's going to be one of our cosplay judges this year, and she's going to be around all weekend as well, doing pictures and stuff with people. So again, it's 1 year someone enters a cosplay competition, the next year they're a judge on they're a judge of the cosplay competition. It's we know when we strike gold with these sorts of people, and we try and get them involved in the show as quick as possible.
Brilliant. That sounds really exciting. Well, there you go, another way to be part of the community and takes the fact that you are wrestling fans building something and you care. So that's fantastic. But I really, really appreciate your time. Wishing you all the best. Obviously, we're only weeks away from the 14th, 15th, and 16th for the Love of Wrestling. Amazing weekend. Make sure you check out the website and the social medias. Get along if you can, and then keep an eye on future events and opportunities to Monopoly events as well. But yeah, thank you very much for your time. I really, really appreciate it.
No problem at all. Thank you very much, Mark. It's been a pleasure.